Have you ever been in a relationship where you felt like you were the one carrying all the weight, always trying to fix things while the other person pulled away, cold, distant, and never really stepping forward? I've had many clients come into my office with that very question. One woman in her 30s once told me, "I don't understand why, every time he shuts down or pulls away, I immediately feel like it's my fault. I apologize, I try to explain, I send these long messages, but he never changes." If you've ever been in that situation, I want you to know, you are not alone. And here's a very important truth. Being a super empath, someone who feels and loves deeply, doesn't mean you're meant to sacrifice endlessly. There's a quiet strength in empathy, and sometimes that very strength is what forces an avoidant partner to confront themselves. You see, one of the most powerful turning points is when the empath stops carrying all the responsibility. In the past, they might have taken the blame for almost everything, even things that had nothing to do with them. But eventually, something shifts. They begin to realize, why am I apologizing for the empty space he leaves behind? Why am I carrying the emotional weight for both of us? And when they stop fixing, stop explaining, stop overfunctioning, the silence itself becomes a mirror. The avoidant partner is left with no one else to blame, no distraction, no escape. For many, that's the first time they're forced to face the emptiness inside themselves. I want you to imagine this. You're sitting in a room with your closest friend. In the past, whenever you went quiet, they'd quickly try to break the silence, cracking a joke, forcing a smile, or asking, "What's wrong?" But now, it's different. They just sit there calm and grounded. They don't run from the silence and they don't try to fill it. They simply stay. This is the power of holding space. A super empath knows how to sit with silence without fear. They understand that silence has its own language. And this is what makes the avoidant partner feel exposed. Because in the past, whenever they pulled away, the empath would instantly step forward. But now, no one steps in. The emptiness grows heavy, not for the empath but for the one who created it. One male client once told me, "When she stopped checking in, when she stopped trying to pull me out of my shell, that's when I realized just how empty I really felt. I was anxious, and I felt lost." That's the quiet yet powerful impact. Another turning point is when the empath stops chasing. Before, the familiar cycle looked like this. The avoidant withdraws, creates distance, and the empath rushes in to close the gap. That unconscious pattern only reinforced the avoidant's ego, convincing them they were the ones in control of the emotional rhythm of the relationship. But when the empath stops, when they don't send the first text, don't push to restart the conversation, don't ask, "Are we okay?" the cycle breaks. And when it breaks, the avoidant finally realizes they were never in control at all. I remember a female client who once broke down in tears in my office and said, "When he left, I felt like my whole world collapsed. But when I finally stopped chasing him, I realized the world hadn't fallen apart at all. I had just stopped hurting myself." That is the power of no longer pursuing. It's not a game and it's not a tactic to win or lose. It's simply an act of self-respect. And then comes a moment I call the silent awakening. The moment when the super empath chooses themselves. After countless rounds of waiting, hoping, and believing that love alone could bring two people closer, they finally see the truth. Love that only flows one way can never last. This choice doesn't come with fireworks. It isn't loud arguments or endless text messages. It happens quietly. One day they just walk away. No slamming doors, no big announcements. They leave with calmness but also with finality. And it's that absence, the empty space left behind when a warm, steady presence is gone, that makes the avoidant partner truly feel the loss. Attachment research has shown that people with avoidant tendencies don't actually fear loss as much as they fear closeness. But here's the paradox. When an empath walks away, that's often the first time the avoidant feels the weight of real loss. Not because they need the other person to survive, but because they realize they've lost the chance to learn what genuine connection could feel like. I know you might be watching this and thinking, "Oh my God, that's me. I'm the one who chased, who apologized, who carried all the weight, and now I'm just exhausted." If that's you, here's what I want you to hear. You are not weak for loving deeply. Your open heart is a gift. But that gift only becomes true strength when you learn how to give it without losing yourself in the process. The question I often leave my clients with, and the one I want to leave with you today, is this. Will you keep abandoning yourself just to hold on to a relationship, or will you finally choose yourself, even if that means walking away? Here's the beautiful part. When a super empath truly chooses themselves, they don't just break free from a painful cycle. They also create space for a different kind of love. A love that flows both ways, where connection isn't a struggle but a natural meeting point. And if you happen to be on the other side, if you recognize avoidant patterns in yourself, then the silence of a super empath can be a gift too. It's a wake-up call, a reminder that it's time to turn inward and face your own fears, instead of expecting someone else to carry your emotions for you. Do you remember in the last part, I talked about the moment when a super empath stops carrying all the responsibility, when they learn to sit with silence, stop chasing, and finally choose themselves? That was only the first half of the story. Because once they reach this stage, 4 deeper shifts begin to unfold, and these are the ones that force the avoidant partner to confront themselves the most. Let's start with setting boundaries calmly. A lot of people think boundaries have to be spoken with force, even ultimatums like, if you keep doing this, I'm leaving. But for a super empath, that's not how it works. They set boundaries not with words, but with energy. They no longer send the first text. They no longer initiate every difficult conversation. They let the space exist, and through that space they make it clear, if you don't step forward, I won't step forward for you. It's like cutting a rope that's been stretched too tightly for too long. It's not an explosive break, but a gentle, profound release. And here's the thing, this quietness is what truly unsettles the avoidant. Because they're so used to having someone else build the bridge. But when the bridge disappears, they're left facing the truth. They are standing alone. And then there's something equally important, shifting focus back to self-nourishment. When a super empath stops pouring all their energy into fixing the relationship, they begin to turn that energy inward. I've seen it happen countless times in my office. After letting go of the chase, many of my clients suddenly blossom in ways they never expected. One woman told me, I realized I had neglected my friends for so long. I started painting again, I went back to yoga, I poured myself into work I actually love. And for the first time in years, I felt truly alive. When this happens, there's a noticeable shift in energy. The avoidant begins to realize they're no longer the center of attention. And paradoxically, it's in that moment, when they're no longer blindly prioritized, that they finally start to feel the sting of loss. The third shift is what I call reflecting the emotional void. Have you ever looked in the mirror while you were sad, only to see your own expression perfectly reflecting what you felt inside? That's exactly what a super empath does, but on a much deeper, subtler level. If the avoidant pulls away, the empath no longer runs after them, they hold the same distance. If the avoidant goes silent, the empath responds with silence too. Not out of revenge. Not as a strategy or a game. Simply to allow reality to reveal itself exactly as it is. And this is what truly unsettles the avoidant. For the first time, they're forced to sit inside the very emptiness that someone else used to fill for them. That's when loneliness is no longer covered up by the other person's efforts. It's laid bare in full. Finally, let's talk about staying calm under pressure. You see, in the past, an empath could be easily shaken. Just one cold text, one dismissive comment, and they'd spiral into worry. What did I do wrong? What do I need to fix to bring him back? But as their awareness grows, everything changes. When faced with avoidance, they don't lash out and they don't beg. They remain steady. And that steadiness disarms the avoidance control strategy. I remember a male client telling me, the first time I went silent for a few days and she didn't react, she didn't accuse me, she didn't blow up my phone, I started to feel nervous. I realized I wasn't in control anymore. That is the quiet yet powerful impact of calmness. If you're a super empath listening to this, I want you to remember, you don't need to shout. You don't need to argue to be seen. Sometimes, it's your calm, your silence, and the way you return to yourself that speaks the loudest. And if you lean toward avoidance, this could be your chance to ask yourself, what am I really avoiding? What am I afraid might happen if I let someone truly get close? When a super empath sets boundaries, turns inward to nurture themselves, reflects the emotional gap, and stays steady under pressure, something powerful happens. It's not only the avoidance sense of control that gets shaken. It's also the moment the empath reclaims their own freedom. So here's the question I want to leave with you. Do you want your love to feel like an endless battle, or a journey where both people willingly step toward each other? And if this message resonates with you, let me know in the comments. Do you see yourself more in the role of the empath or the avoidant? And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe so we can meet again in future videos, where I'll share even more about building healthy, lasting connection.